Good morning, Basil. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Alex. I'm very well. How are you, man?
Good. We're talking about The Dig now this week. About it's on Netflix basically with Ralph Fiennes and Carey Mulligan. It's a Netflix production, 2021, very good film, and it's about. It happens in 1939 or 38, so that time just before the World War II in England, and it's about Ralph Fiennes' character. Is an archaeologist, and he gets employed by Carey Mulligan's character to
Mrs. Pretty.
Mrs. Pretty to dig up this to investigate or excavate these mounds that she has on her property in the countryside, and I think it's somewhere in Suffolk or something like that. It's based on a true story.
Yeah.
Suffolk is based on a true story, and it just revolves around the relationship between and the impact of this big massive discovery that they have on her property, and the impact on her life at the time when the country is just about to go to war. It's very well acted. What did you thought of it, Basil?
Yeah, well, it's number one in the UK at the moment on Netflix, which is a good thing, I think, because you don't really see these type of films. It's very classically British, this film, obviously being set in England and whatnot. And as you say, brink of war, 1939, tense atmosphere, and they got that pretty spot on in the film, I think. And Ralph Fiennes is always fantastic in everything, so if you like him, you should watch this. And just quite an interesting film. He's an excavator. He's been hired by Carey Mulligan's character, Mrs. Pretty, to kind of uncover investigate, as you say, these kind of strange mounds in her acres of land. She's obviously very wealthy. And at first they think it's Viking structures that might be under there. And then they actually find out it's much older than that. It's actually Anglo-Saxon. So that just, deepens the search even more, makes it more interesting. But very,
you're
go on.
spot on about capturing that area, that first world. So the looks of the film are very let's call it very British, because it's a very British way of filmmaking. However, there's another sense of immediate danger, because throughout the film there's planes going across, fighter jets going across the.
That happens 3 or 4 times, doesn't
it? Always, exactly, and it's always like foreshadowing what's coming up, and it's that just gives you a sense of
it's like the impending wartime. Yeah,
exactly.
Impending wartime is coming. Yeah,
exactly.
And also there's like reports on the radio as well. You hear that every now and again. People listen to the radio of what the Germans are currently doing now in Europe and how that's going to impact us. But I think also, we hit on it earlier in the film as well. There's quite a cute kind of attitude amongst the characters in Suffolk, which is like, it's almost quite a nice humble attitude with their sayings and their accents, and it's like they never get too excited over anything, and I'm not saying that in a negative way either. They kind of like make their lives simple, and it's just kind of worth pointing out that, because it's quite an idealistic lifestyle. You can imagine a small kind of village lifestyle
and this
that you'd almost want to retire in, and it's quite cute the way they've done that.
And the discovery is such an extraordinary event in such a peaceful community, basically. I think it's called, the place is called Sutton Hoo, I believe.
I think that's what it was. Yeah,
I think that's what it was, and it proved to be a massive discovery. But what I did like about it was the relationship between Carey Mulligan's Mrs. Pretty and Ralph Fiennes.
And Basil Brown.
Basil Brown, his name is.
My name.
Yeah. And I thought it was very nice, because she's a widow, and she's got a boy, and she almost like she's trying to use her wealth to give back to humanity and to society, because she just decides to start digging up these mounds with just the feeling that might be something there. And this involves a lot of effort, and she's sick also, so it's not easy for her either, but she just
she's very ill in the film, isn't she? And that's quite, I think that's worked quite well, because obviously her son, who as young as he is, he must be 7, has picked up that she's got an illness which is very very bad for her, and Ralph Fiennes kind of like, it's the go-between both of them to kind of help them through that, and there's a particular scene I really like as well.
Basil Brown's character, Ralph Fiennes' character, is very. He's a brilliant archaeologist, but I can't call him necessarily a brilliant, a social person or anything like that. He's just a down-to-earth, no-nonsense type of character. So he's not the first person you'd expect to become the father figure for the child which is sort
Yes.
of what she's looking for. But it turns out, just from as much as we can see from the film, that that's what she's looking for, and you know that's a nice part of the film. But if you think about if this was in cinemas, would you go and see it, Buzz?
I think I would have. I think I would have. As I've said, if Ralph finds us in anything, it's always worth a watch. And not to
Actually,
not
that's a
to
good
do any
point.
disrespect to Carey Mulligan as well. She's always been fantastic in everything I've seen.
Right.
And just I think the interest, and it's got my name in it as well. So yeah,
Of course, yeah,
I
that's
think
the
I
first
think I think I think the interesting thing is though is it's just like the film essentially is about Basil Brown not getting recognition for discovering these Anglo-Saxon, artifacts.
Sure.
Up until I think it was only about 10 years ago, as they actually put his name in the British museum. I can't remember where it was now, but his name wasn't even mentioned at all. I think it was just in memoirs of Mrs. Pretty's memoirs, and only recently have they mentioned him in the British Museum and made this film about him. Because up until that point, all the credit was just going to the other excavators that the British Museum hired to help him, but his name was never mentioned, which is quite sad.
So if there was a scene that summed up the film, so just spoilers are coming, so be mindful. Was there any scene that stuck with you, Buzz?
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to hear what you say. But for me, the tear-jerking moment for myself was when the little lad, it comes to a little conclusion in the film. It must be half an hour towards the end that his mum is dying essentially, and she can't hide that from him. And he runs out the house and he bumps into Basil, and Basil stops him shaking and says, I wish I could tell you everything's going to be all right, but people fail every day, because the child's beating himself up because he thinks he's failed his mum because he can't help her. He's powerless, and this is where the cuteness of the simple kind of culture and attitude of Basil's character comes in, because he says, people fail every day and you failed, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just makes you human, and it's just a great little scene. It's not too dramatic or anything. It's not one of these long-winded speeches that you see all the time. He's just saying that's what we do. We fail every day. We're human, and that's where he shows his true acting prowess, in that scene.
Correct. That's easy, because that was my favorite scene too. So
it's great.
What a joy to see also Ralph Fiennes, like you said, in a role that isn't very commercial, because he's a brilliant actor. He's we know him from stage and theater and things like that. But recently, I don't know, he's been in James Bond and things like that. But now this is a role that he is full on showing his acting skills. So if you're just a fan of him, just that's a.
It was well casted. It was well casted.
Absolutely.
To be honest.
Yeah. Carey Mulligan is a bit shorter on what do you call it, screen time, but he is spot on. So it's The Dig on Netflix. Very good film to see. It's a very good Sunday viewing. Easily. We'll talk next week, Buzz.
Yeah. Take care, Alex.
See you
Bye.
later, man. Bye.